Dr. Jessica Ash here. Today, I am lucky enough to have Dr. Gulbahar Beckett with me to introduce the research that she has done on international higher education and its status during COVID. And we're going to come up with some solutions for that, our future solutions. So thank you for being with me today, Dr. Beckett.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Can you first tell us a little bit about yourself, your affiliation, and your research?
Yeah, I'm a professor at the Iowa State University, Applied Linguistics and Technology. I've done a lot of international education, including being the director of Center for International Education at the University of Cincinnati. Founding director, actually. And, which means that I started that. And got grants and worked with Iraq and Iraqi professors. As you were part of the team too, so yeah, I'm still working with the colleagues and students there. And I just had another co-supervised PhD student defended his dissertation.
Really?
Yeah, Sangar Othman. So I'm happy that work still continues. And at Iowa State University, I was the director of Intensive English and Orientation program for 5 years. And while directing that program, I got grants from IIE to work with Brazilian
wonderful
Fulbright office and trained a lot of teachers, and we're hoping that we get another group of teachers next summer. We worked with Mexican government and to train their students, and also my main work was focusing on getting international accreditation for the program, which we did, and I'm extremely proud that we've done that. So the program is now internationally aligned, CFR aligned, etc. So that's my pride. For those are some of the things that I've done there, and very proud that we've been able to do that. So. And of course, a lot of my research too has to do with international education, and as an international person myself too. So yeah, as the director of Intensive English program, I was fully update on daily basis on what's happening, and I still continue that habit of wanting to know what's going on, what will happen, and what we should do, and etc. And first of all, of course, I think that international education is extremely important, not only for students from other countries who are coming here, but also for American students who would like to know about other countries and students from other countries.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a vital part of growing up, understanding your culture as opposed to your culture, and really living differently.
Yes. That's my a bit of relevant introduction to the talk that we're doing.
Yes. And, you were talking about the constant monitoring of the situation, and management of the situation. And, it's a constant, adaptation. Well, this worked, this didn't work. So how are we going to handle it? But before we get to the solutions in the future, can you tell us a little bit about the research you've done about online education during COVID?
Well, during COVID, online education absolutely has become necessary.
Yes.
Without it, a lot of universities, almost all, I don't know what we would have done without online education. So it's definitely played a very crucial role in keeping the universities open and continuing the education that we needed to provide to all students, including some international students.
Yes.
And some international students, as in those who were willing to be part of the online teaching, they have been able to be part of the online teaching and learning. So yeah, I think it's absolutely crucial. Yeah.
It is crucial, but what are some of the stopgaps that you have noticed? You were talking earlier about students deferring.
Oh yeah, so of course there are some students who would rather defer and start their programs when they can face to face rather than starting online, because of various reasons, including that the major goal of studying abroad, let's say for international students to study in US, Canada, and other countries that they want to go to, is to have access to local resources, including interaction with local people, who are their classmates, professors, and local people in the community.
They want that in-country experience.
Yes, yes. And so if they cannot do that, they would rather wait until they can and then start with the kind of environment that they have in mind. So I think that's one reason that they defer. And other reasons that they defer is that while technology is wonderful in allowing us to keep the university open, as I just said, it also presents challenges, such as not all students in every corner of the world have access to the same kind of technology tools that are necessary for teaching and learning. So that would result in the not getting the kind of education that students expect to get, and so that's another reason that they don't want to learn online.
Yeah, I want to say at this particular moment, I have two things to say. The first one is I get those reasons, but what I'm preaching is like, what else are you gonna do? And so, I mean, we're still interacting with people. I interact with people in at least 5 countries per day. And sure, it's not the kind of interaction that I would love, but in this circumstance, you and I are both growing as humans because we're interacting even now. And I influence people to the extent possible to not defer, because I mean, I get it that it's not the in-country experience, but don't stop your educational process. Like I think it's very important for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to continue their education, whatever the circumstance. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are two reasons for that. One is to understand that interaction is still possible, and that actually takes time for people to understand and experience, and to know that yes, they can still get at least most of the education that they hope to get. That's one. And two, probably more importantly, students have choices. And the choice is that they would explore, is there somewhere else that I can go to that'll give me the kind of education on site that I hope for? So according to the ISEF NAVATA research that they've done. What is it, NAVATA? That recently show that students still go abroad, and there are also other things like, especially during this COVID period, who or which country is being flexible? Are they still issuing visas, for example? This border policy, it's called. And are they, sounds terrible to say medically safe, but it's true in this context, right? So can they still go and not get COVID and still study? And depending on how people understand how each country is handling COVID, they choose the ones that they hear and that's safer and flexible and still are issuing visas, etc. And based on what I read, the UK is seen as most flexible, most friendly, and having better
safety
border policy. So apparently students want to go there.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, UK is their first choice, and then Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and then us. So yeah, there are a lot of variables and factors that people would like to do what they want to do, and if that they want to do is still to study in person, and then they decide, do they have choice to do that? And apparently they think that they do. So I think the yeah, and of course other safety too, like in general, which country, which area, which region is seen to be safe, perceived to be. And so yeah, you know, of course now we are all in the same boat, but
right, who's medically safe?
Yeah.
You earlier remind me, because we've had a question for you, but it doesn't relate to what we're talking about now, and I kind of want to I want you to talk about hybrid programs as a solution moving forward. What were you saying about that?
Yes, as I said earlier, I think it's going to take us a few years to recover to where we were in terms of international education. Let's say where we were even just 2 years ago, let alone 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were at our best. And so it's going to take several years to get to that point, and it's going to take at least a few years to get to even where we were 2-3 years ago. And mainly because of the anxiety over COVID, which will definitely linger for a couple of years at least. So meanwhile, we should definitely continue. And because as we said earlier, international education is important for everyone, not just international students who want to come here,
right?
But also for us. We need to be engaging with the world, and our students need to know, need to learn, and just as much as international students wanting to learn from us.
Yeah.
So some of the methods, I think, is that while not every student can come here, I think we could modify our approaches, which from before, which were we wait here, we have them here, etc. Changing from that to taking our expertise to where students are. Of course, we cannot go to every province of everybody's country, so maybe we can have regional hubs, even if it's not every country. For example, we could have something in Istanbul for the countries that are in the region who can send their students there. And that solves a few problems, including financial problems, because COVID is hitting everyone financially too. it costs that much more for parents to send their children, let's say, from Erbil, Iraq, to Cincinnati or Ames, USA, than sending their children to Istanbul, Turkey.
Well, and that brings up the other point about that, and this is relevant for higher education, international higher education, is that these regional centers will operate on much lower budgets.
What?
Lower budgets.
So, yes, yeah.
Like the institute that I just opened in Dubai, Inception, we're not going to command the tuition of $15,000 a semester or $30,000 a semester or whatever it is. I mean, these institutions are going to operate at a more reasonable price point.
Yeah. Yes, of course, it impacts the impacts our bottom line too of economy. The international education is actually billions, and it brought in usually billions and billions of dollars to our country here. So doing what we did regionally, of course, is not going to make us billions of dollars. But while we are transitioning back to our previous model or a better model, we need to continue international education. So
and to remain active, with these other countries.
Yeah. So meanwhile, we could conduct our business, education business regionally, even though tuition-wise it's not going to be probably not even cost effective. But that, one, we continue our engagement. Two, it could serve as getting to know them getting to know us, and increasing their interest to come to us when the circumstances are right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought like a bad thing to do, and we have to do something. And yes, online is definitely part of that kind of education. So I think it could be done in hybrid manner, which is we could still have students to come here, but for shorter period of time, for cost reasons and also for anxiety, to reduce anxiety on other things. So they could finish out what they studied here at the end of the program.
Yes, I think the fears, maybe people don't really even know what they're afraid of, but I think it's normal in a crisis that people want to be with their family.
That plus just the inconvenience. If you have to quarantine 14 days everywhere you land, by the time you're done quarantining, right?
You need to go home.
Yes, and also every time you quarantine somewhere, you pay the hotel bill by yourself. So that's just too much.
I had a PCR test in JFK International Airport last month, and it was $270.
Yeah, see, it's just inconvenient and it's too costly. So meanwhile, we need to figure out a way to stay engaged. And then, as I said earlier, that could also mean that because not all our professors and teachers are able to or willing to go to those regional centers, we could train the trainers. We could teach local people how to teach what we would have taught here. And throughout the teaching, some people here would monitor and help out remotely.
Yes.
And also visit on site. So I think those are some of the ways to the format-wise, right, mode. And I also think that content may have to change, because I've been saying this for quite a while, even before COVID, which is that we cannot keep, for instance, I mean, there's all kinds of international education, of course. What I'm going to say has to do with language teaching. So, and we still, even when students come here, teach students basic English language, starting with grammar and all that stuff that we used to do for like decades. And the reason that we need to move on from that is that students who come to us, either here or to those regional hubs, they no longer need those because they started, children, let's say in China, they start learning English starting from preschool. So by the time that they come here, they will have done like millions of grammar exercises, millions of, other
It's
things.
about communication. It's
Yeah,
about,
basic English.
you know, you've had 10, not you, but like to the students,
Yeah.
I say this all the time, you've had 10 years of grammar.
I know. And then
I don't need you to say subject, verb, object. I need
exactly.
you to say, hello, Dr. Ash.
Yes.
I went to a restaurant yesterday. You know,
Yes.
it has to be more interactive.
Even the teaching method has moved on. Yesterday, I was looking for teaching demo for my teaching learning course that I'm going to teach this semester. And one of the teaching demonstrations that showed up on YouTube is English language teaching in China. So I clicked and I saw this kindergarten teacher teaching through TPR, like very active teaching. And she was teaching English in English. And there was like very occasionally, out of 10 minutes, there were like 1 minute of explanation in Chinese. Otherwise, the kindergarten children were being taught English. In English, very communicatively, total physical response, and etc., etc. So I was very impressed. This teacher's English is very good. Children were able to do what she said. And there was non-stop activity. Sitting on the floor, sitting in circles, unlike how they used to be stereotypical.
I'm laughing because when I work with kids, I have puppets.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that even methodologically, the world has moved on from the grammar, formal language teaching for. So my point is that they no longer need that when they come here.
That's why I've switched.
Or even when they're in their countries, by the time they get to university, what they need is continue developing English by doing something else with it. And that something else with it is what I have been advocating, and of course some colleagues of mine too, is content-based English language teaching and learning. So you teach people something else with English so that they can, just like native speakers, continuous learning of language. We all learn language forever, right? Whenever we learn in anybody's first language even, whenever we learn a new content, let's say if you and I were to start a medical school, we will learn medical language on hourly basis, let alone daily, right? Mm-hmm. It's that kind of idea that by teaching students how to operate a computer, teach them the language that's necessary for computer technology.
Yeah, like the pause button. They're always like, pause?
Yes.
Pause.
Yeah. What is reboot, right? Right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense if you don't touch the computer and reboot, etc. So it's different from looking things up in the dictionary forever. So I think that's another thing that we need to do differently. So teach, plus, honestly, English as foreign language teachers are great teachers. They do a great job. Students don't have to come here to learn grammar. So we need to be innovative and start thinking about what can we offer that their local English teachers cannot offer. And start from there and build continuous English language development into that which only we can offer. So we need to stay ahead of the.
Yeah. So one of the things I started doing is whatever classes that are like liberal education classes that are coming up, whether they're all students have to take a biology. That
Mm.
doesn't matter what their major. So I'll teach. I've learned a lot of biology words. Because I'll teach, I'll do a 1-day session on, okay, here's an option for one of the classes that you can take next semester, and it's about plants. So, you know, I've learned like so many Latin words, toxicodendrons radicans. What do you think that means? What plant is that?
What? Say it again.
It's a plant, and it's toxicodendrons radicans.
No idea.
It's poison ivy. It's poison ivy. But so I do a lot of that, so that our art history, because everybody has to take an art history class. And then I've switched, you know, that I've switched a lot to how to become your best self. I do a lot of like personality exploration, habits for success, how to be, you know, how to be proactive about your life, not reactive. And that's the kind of stuff that 19-year-olds need.
Yeah. And also, trust me, 99% of the students who come here to learn English, they are here not to continue to learn English for the sake of learning English. They are here to continue to learn English so that they can get into other subject area studies.
Yeah,
like engineering, like business, like education and other things. So what we teach needs to match with what they want to learn.
Yeah, I
in the
totally
future. So it's yeah. So that's even in that those regional hubs that we could create. That kind of teaching needs to happen. It's no longer just teaching grammar like we've done forever. And as I said, local teachers do excellent job as that already.
Yes, the myth of the native speaker has to be told. It's a myth. You don't need to be a native speaker. But one thing I'd love to say out loud in public about speakers in our EFL teachers is that I really, in particular, the women, I want to empower the women. Many cultures have this idea that women are supposed to be docile and compliant. And because of that, like cultural identity, the women in particular are afraid to actually speak English, even though they're the teacher. And I want every EFL teacher to act like a leader and just speak English in the classroom. Don't be demure. Don't be shy. Don't be compliant. Teach in English.
Well, yeah, there are local cultural constraints about what they can do and what they cannot do. But definitely women are capable, not only capable, crucial in their children's education, in the future of our world, actually. So research shows that if we invest in women's education, we make more progress than otherwise. So
Very
absolutely, yes. And that includes teaching English.
Very well said. And they should, I understand local cultural norms. I mean, those norms exist here in the US too. You know, even girls here are raised to be compliant. But, you know, I really want to encourage people to leave those cultural norms outside the door, shut the classroom door and teach in English. You're at the head of the classroom, teach in English. But this is a good interrupting point. You have had a question from Shahab in Pakistan, and he would like to know, what skill do you suggest?
For teaching English?
No, just as a university teacher, if somebody were to go back to college, besides English, what skill would you recommend they obtain?
Well, again, based on my research, the skills that everybody needs, that would include you and me, is that continuous learning to learn, well, first of all, to understand that we need to learn continuously. Gone are those days that now I have a PhD in business administration,
Right.
plant operation, and therefore I'm done for the rest of my life. Those days are gone.
Mhm.
You can have PhD in anything, but things, especially things are changing so fast that all of us have to know how to learn. And of course, that goes back to the American educational philosopher John Dewey from a century ago. But that is truly reality. That because things change so fast, and new research could come up and tell us that even the content knowledge we knew is no longer relevant, right? Or
Right.
that it needs to be thought differently. And therefore, we need to be prepared, first of all, understand that we need to continuously learn. And secondly, to learn the skills to learn continuously. And those skills, of course, technology definitely, and also critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, cooperative learning skills. Those are not easy. It sounds like, yeah, I can do that. But no, I discovered that cooperative learning is not that easy. People have different understanding of what cooperative learning is. And yeah, those are definitely the kind of things. And also, yeah,
So those are all recommend social skills, communication skills,
yeah,
soft skills. Those are all recommended by NACE, the National Association of College and Employers. Also, Yuval Harari, who's from Israel, he wrote a book about 21 lessons for the 21st century. And he said basically the same thing. People need to learn how to have the kind of conversations
yeah,
that you and I are having right now.
yeah.
We listen to each other.
Yeah, again, this actually has philosophical and of course research basis too. We are not just saying this. And even though it's been put forward 100 years ago by, again, famous American philosopher John Dewey, whose philosophy actually impacted the world tremendously. But there are still, and some, not everyone knows about it and does what he says. But what he said was that we do need to learn how to learn, and also to be prepared all the time that our knowledge could be out of date. Therefore, we need to
refresh
our knowledge. We need to know how to find out the latest and considered latest accurate knowledge, rather than holding on to that one knowledge we learned 100 years ago. Well, that no longer is true, right? For example, a lot of things. So yeah, absolutely. So and again, those things sound like easy. Learn to be independent. It's not that easy to actually do that. And learn cooperative learning. Everybody could understand it in their own different way. A latest example that I makes me smile is that a team of people wanted to work together on something, and then the team leader decided to leave the collaboration path until the last week, and until the deadline for something, and then the rest of the team members had to drop out of the program, the collaborative program, because they weren't able to contribute to the team. So the team was waiting for the team leader to lead the team through on a weekly basis to contribute to the product to the last that will be presented at the end. So it's not easy. It's and now we are functioning at global level. So the cultural understanding of what is collaboration, that too is different. So we really do need to learn how to learn. And
that's one of the best
as it is, we have to continuously refresh our knowledge and skills. Yes.
And teamwork, that's one of the best part about getting my MBA, is that almost every class is team-based projects. And I mean, there are people from very different cultures, even in Cincinnati, but different mindsets. And they all have to work together to get this thing done. But it's also very important. I need somebody who's really good with data, with numbers on my team, because that's not my forte. And people who are really good with numbers, they often have a different mindset than mine. And so I have to overcome any bias I may have about working with somebody who's really good at numbers, who may be very, very introverted, but I need their skills. So I have to learn how to accept this person. And, same goes the other way.
That actually is a great example because, as I said earlier, we are now functioning at global level, and we should, because there are issues that are relevant to all of us, which needs to be studied globally. Let's say a study on English as, for instance, a good example would be a research study of English language teaching in Asia, for example. Well, if I were the lead researcher for this, I cannot be in Asia, all Asian countries, and at the same time teach here, right? That's impossible.
You need to work with people.
But I'd like to be able to do this. And one way to do this is to work with colleagues in each of those countries. And as you said, we each contribute our expertise. I could contribute my ideas, write up of the research study. I could contribute to the latest articles because I have access to them. Some of my colleagues there may not. But they could contribute by helping me collect the data, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And somebody else here or there could contribute with data analysis. So yeah, then we could do large-scale, impactful, worldwide kind of research. So, and speaking of technology allows us to do that kind of work. So yes, absolutely, those are necessary. And yeah, so that takes me to something else that I wanted to say, the mode of learning. So how do we, because all those skills are interrelated, the skills, let me mention, for instance, how do you learn language in context, right? And how do you learn to be a critical thinker? How do you learn to be collaborative? How do you also carve out some independence for yourself? All at the same time, and technology, through and integrating technology, and remotely, right? So this is very overwhelming, and it sounds challenging, yet it can be done. How? It's through project-based learning. So the kind of research study that I mentioned earlier could be considered as a research project for the team. So by doing that kind of research, students can do this too, of course at smaller level. Then students get to use their English to do various aspects of their projects by having to read about what they have to do for their projects and write about what they've done, right? And then the project-based learning component includes making your project public, meaning that you present to your teacher, classmates, or community. Then they have to present. That means you're speaking English, right? Mm-hmm. And then reflect. Students then need to tell us what they've learned, what they've done, how they did what they did, what they learned, etc. And during that, they could develop this thinking skills and then have them work collaboratively. So it is a project. Let's say if it's a project on COVID, how, let's say, COVID is dealt with in Bangladesh. So some of the students can go interview people. Other students can go review literature. You look at newspaper articles, right, to see what's being reported. Some other students can do some survey and crunch some numbers, right? Somebody who's proud of their English could be the representative of the spokesperson. So, and then the teacher can, well, the students actually will run into problems to solve along the way anyway, but the teachers can intentionally anticipate some problems that they need to solve. So see, together they get to speak English, write English, read English, and talk in English, solve problems, and be thinkers, and they still have to do independent components of the work. So I think that would be the best way to go. And in business, it's called case-based learning, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's
So in general terms, project-based learning would get us do all the things that we need to do, and also
meaningful.
Learn how to learn. Yes.
You know, we've been language educators for many years.
Yeah.
And it was 30 years ago at the University of Hawaii where my first mentor, she kept every day. It was context. Context is everything. Context is everything.
Yes.
But what you're talking about also adds on like the layer of meaning making.
Yes.
The student is interested in something, they investigate it, and they're creating something of meaning.
Yes. And students of project-based learning is my research area. So I've read hundreds of articles, research studies. So students take tremendous pride in their learning when they do projects. They feel like they had some say in what they want to do. And they were able to accomplish something and talk about it, write about it. And they almost all students say that that's the kind of learning that they will never forget. And also it's transferable skills. Otherwise, how do you do that? Like lesson 1, critical thinking. Lesson 2, independent learning. No, you do that by having students, work together on something. And each of these components are covered in project-based learning. So I think that
very important
is another, the more concrete method, if you will, to accomplish this. And another thing that we can offer that local English as foreign language students probably don't do. I'm sure they can, but they may not do it. So again, as I said, we need to be creative and do what students need, and also by doing projects, by doing what they want to do. Students often choose what they're interested in. And if business administration is what they want to get into, then their projects will be on business administration. Then by studying that already in English, they will have had head start on business English.
Yes.
Rather than saying, okay, in business English, let's teach you how to say resume. Resume. Yeah, you can teach that, but in order to compose a resume as part of doing job interview, they don't have to memorize that. By having to do that, they will have internalized.
That interview questions. I went over interview questions with my students. And, there's always the question, what's your biggest weakness? And students will say, like, I'm a real lazy person. And I'm like, no, that's not how you answer that question. You have to say, in the past, I realized I procrastinated. And then I realized and grew, and now I don't. But that's a skill. I mean, interviewing is a skill that should be taught. Resume writing.
Yeah,
absolutely. These will help students in their future.
And also one of the things that language teachers complain. We were language teachers once ourselves, and I did too. I was asked to teach listening, speaking, and my students loved listening, speaking, and I loved teaching it. But often we would come to a point that we would just stare at each other and not speaking anymore. So I never knew why that happened until I went to Canada to study with my doctoral advisor, who says that the major rationale for content-based language education is that you as in us, we need to give students something to talk about, something to read for, something to write about. Otherwise, what are they going to say? Then it clicked. Oh, I see. We run out of things to say. You can say only so much. What's your name, right? What's the weather like outside? What's happening, especially if you're constrained with other things. But if you have students to work on a project, there's tons to read about it. There are numerous things that you can write about it. You can talk about the topic, your research process, your thinking, your future ability, what language learning is taking place, what computer tool that you learned in order to do this project. And yeah, it's just so much. You don't need to, and well, yeah, this comes to another complaints that teachers have, language teachers, is that students are not motivated to learn language. Well, maybe because they're bored of studying the same thing.
Motivate them, inspire them.
Right. Can you ask them to do something that they're interested in, so they'd like to talk about all the time? So that's what projects do, when you ask them to do what they are interested in doing. And listen, the other things that students complain is that nobody cares about what they have to say. Then, of course, teachers need to care and listen, and with interest and help. So that truly is best way to.
I love hearing your ideas.
Yeah,
they're great. And I often, the idea of critical thinking or creative problem solving, and I think of a job description. If you're 19, you're thinking, I have to get a degree so I can get a job. But that's like the end of the thought. And I want to say
the job needs you to think critically, right?
Right. There's no job description that's complete.
Yeah.
The world changes fast.
Yeah.
You're going to have a duty, a job in your in your career next year that you don't know exists right now.
Yes, that's why it's important to know how to learn and be ready to tackle new things that come along. Yeah, it's the other day I was listening to something, and actually the World Economics Forum, there was an article on that too that reminded me of something that I've known for a long time and worried, which is that with the development of AI, a lot of routine jobs are going to be taken over by technology. Speaking of technology, things like delivery. Well, we are seeing already drones delivering packages, right?
Yes.
And cleaning jobs, even the people who serve food, for instance, especially fast food. There is no need for a human. There will be apparently no need for a human to wrap a burger and hand it over. A machine can do that. They were using examples of how restaurants in Japan already use robots to.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So that's another urgent reminder that we need to be constantly ahead of machines and be able to think and constantly recreate ourselves to do things like robots cannot do, so we're not replaced.
You're saying something that the head of the National Democratic Institute, NDI, in Washington says. His name is Arthur Brooks, and he's brilliant. And he says, stop complaining that your job might not exist tomorrow. That's the way the world is.
Yeah, it's very sad, actually. It's very unfortunate. One of the things that AI has been taking over is farming. And it's very unfortunate because I live in Iowa now, and this state is heavily dependent on farming. Mm-hmm. And it saddens me tremendously to know that the farmers' lives have been changed and will change even more to the degree that machines just take over.
But the point that you're making, I think, is that, and I think about this with factory workers.
Yeah.
Factory workers are like, I need to have the same job and do the same skill,
Yeah.
put this widget in this thing for 40 years, and you better protect my job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's not how the world is. The
Yeah.
world changes, and your skill set has to adapt to the future.
Yeah.
That's the way the world is.
Yeah.
We can protect coal mining jobs as long as we want to protect them. But that doesn't mean that they won't eventually go away. They will eventually go away. So start planning now.
Yes. So that's why it's even more important that we need to start redesigning what we do, and responsibly, including for our English as a second language, foreign language students, to teach them what they need to learn urgently, not keep regurgitating the language that they already learned 12 years before they come here.
I agree.
Seriously, because it's boring, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not relevant to their life. I mean,
no, that's not what they want to do. They come here to
inspire them.
Yeah, and even when we go to them, to their regional hubs, the same thing. We need to, again, for us, we really need to be able to provide them with something that they cannot get locally. The teaching English language through grammar, blah, blah, is something that they already have had. And as I said, their teachers are doing marvelous jobs of doing that sitting in Beijing.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have covered a lot today.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been on for 52 minutes. So I think that we're at a point where we should probably wrap up.
Okay.
I am on board with you about project-based learning, and it's always going to involve the internet or, technological tools. Is there anything else that you think is important about this topic?
International education. Yeah, I think we did cover a lot. I think we just to reiterate, I think we need to stay engaged, and if staying engaged is not possible the way that we have been doing, which is not possible for at least for a few years, then we need to recreate our models to go to where students are, and also change our approaches of doing international education, again, from teaching just students to teaching, I know this has been done to some degree, but teaching more of, doing more of training the trainers, and teaching approaches and the content of what we teach, and how we teach. These things need to
there are many new types of hybrid that will emerge from this. I'm looking at a possible program in Morocco where we're going to start for the first 6 weeks online, and then if everything goes well, then maybe in May I can go visit there and we can have like a culmination week.
Yes, and definitely
hybrid stuff.
Continue to utilize technology, but also not losing the human touch.
Yes, very well said.
Yeah, human touch, as in we can go there, and also they need to come here. I mean, it's from experience again. We had Mexican students who were here for just 50 days. Oh my goodness, it's just for 50 days. That's a tremendously different experience that boosted their confidence.
Right.
We are still keeping contact with them. And even the Iraqi professors, they were at UC in Cincinnati for little under 2 weeks. Even that made a tremendous difference. So they do need to come here. They need to see our universities. They need to see our students. The requests often include things like, can we see American students? Can we sit in American, we're American teachers too, but they want to see how American professors teach all American students, not just international students. So when the Brazilian teachers come here, we arrange that. And yes, they need to see how our classrooms look like. And And from that Chinese teacher teaching her kindergarten students, I thought, my goodness, she may have had her training here.
Yeah.
Or somewhere, and then you cannot tell that that's not a classroom that any American teacher would have had. So yeah, so they need to come here to if they want to. I'm not saying that.
Right. You have to.
Yeah, usually they'd like to. So if they like to, they can come here to observe, and that kind of human touch is definitely still necessary. So we need to be creative about how to safely and efficiently and effectively do all these things.
Okay. I think that's a very good closing. All right. So for now, I'll say thank you for your time. I'm glad you were with me today, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. See you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. See you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.